Good morning to all. Good morning to my fellow panelists. Very excited to be with you today. And we're here to discuss hybrid intelligence, but let me take a quick moment to introduce you to our panelists. With me, I have Valérie Beaulieu, the Chief Growth and Innovation Officer of Manpower Group. I have Corine de Bilbao, President of Microsoft France, and then Jérémie Profeta, Chief Transformation Officer of Sonepar. And I'm thrilled to have this conversation with you all today. I'm a techno-optimist, but I'm also what we call back at Stanford, a bit of a fuzzy, less of a techie, meaning I studied international affairs and political science. So I'm looking at this from the perspective of what happens to humans when this massive acceleration happens. And today the discussion is about managing this evolution that's happening from tool, from calculator, to coworker, which tends to have more of a bit of a, buddy, friend, more of a human feel to the conversation. Back in the US, it's graduation time right now. So every speech that we hear about every time the words AI are being mentioned, you see youth having anxiety. Of course, it's a time of anxiety. It's the best of times and the worst of times, if you think about it, right? It's a time of acceleration and major changes. So thank you for allowing me to wax a little poetic about our topic, but I have three wonderful experts who are in their hot seats, so I'm going to dive right into the questions right away. And I'm going to start with you, Valérie. I apologize in advance because I tend to do this all the time, but I'm going to come to you first. From the future of work vantage point, do you think AI is making human talent more valuable or less valuable as we start working in this co-worker space?
Well, thank you. I think this is a very good way to frame the conversation. Too often I'm listening and hearing the opposition between AI and work, and I think it's the wrong way to ask the question, because exactly what we see is that what's being changed today is at task level. So when you think about the work, it's not all the jobs that are going to be eliminated, but when you look at the tasks, some tasks will be completely automated, some tasks will be hybrid, augmented by the AI, and some tasks will remain deeply human. And so at the end of the day, what we are seeing in our research and all the feedback from our clients and businesses and organizations is actually they put more emphasis on all the capabilities and skills that make us superhuman. And you've heard that hundreds of times, I'm sure, since the beginning of VivaTech. Judgment, creativity, decision-making, all these things that a machine may not be able to do it. We may try to emulate a simile thing, but it's not the same thing. And definitely, we believe human stays at the center. The other thing I want to say is that we talk a lot about the impact of AI and work. There's also a big category of work, and we've seen that during COVID, all the frontline workers. These are people who are not going to see a lot of impact of AI. And there is also a big question for us as a society, how do we want to value that work? You know, the nurse that will continue to hold hands of people who are in very deep need, the teachers, the people who are waiters at restaurants and advising you. So I think there's also a question about all the rest of the work that is not impacted, and are we going to bring more value to this job because it's also done by humans. So definitely more value.
More value. And so great to have this perspective. You're definitely in the trenches when it comes to future work. And then I wanted to go next to you, Corine, because as a technology partner to so many organizations and other companies, where do you see AI genuinely making people sharper? Like, where do you really see them as a good partner?
Well, it depends on how you use it, to be honest. I mean, you can be sharper or you can be passive. You're going to be sharper if you really use AI in terms of doing things which are friction in your job. I would say summarizing documents, research, I mean, things that you can automatize. And I like the way you talk about jobs. We don't talk about jobs, we talk about tasks. And it's kind of, you need to, split in 3 buckets. Things that AI can do as a whole, things where you need AI to assist you, and things you need to do. So it really depends on how you use it as an accelerator and not as a substitute to your criticism, your capacity of judgment. Let me give an example. You take a piece of work where there is really a shortage in terms of jobs. Doctors. Doctors spend roughly 60 to 70% of their time to write reports on patients, to look for documents, to fill administrative documents. The reality is that you expect, they're going to talk to you, they're going to look at your case, and they're going to exercise their judgment. And today, this is possible with technology. I mean, we've been working with some hospital, CHU Montpellier, as an example, where really, you use AI to get them to automatize what is, it is not the core of their job, so they can spend more time on what is added value. So that will give more room to the criticism, your judgment capacity, and the ability to make decisions. Because at the end of the day, humans make decisions, not tools.
And that's a key differentiator, right? So is it helping us make human skills more valuable because those have not been replaced, maybe they won't be replaced. So we heard the big picture, society, future work. We heard what happens in the organizational point of view. And now the man and really in the hot seat, because you get to actually do this in your job. What does that look like from your vantage point? You're actually using AI as a coworker.
So absolutely, so we do it for real. So a couple of things that actually really resonate with me on what Valérie said and Corine, obviously. To give you 3 examples, the first one as a coworker is that indeed we have to deal with a large number of quotation and orders. We are dealing with large volume. That's why we talk about transformation at scale and AI at scale. As an example, we have 46,000 associates at Sonepar. 20,000 of them are interacting to the customers every day. 10,000 of them are inside sales. They have to deal with a very large amount of quotation and orders, and this task, Valérie, indeed can be very much automated, which means they can save an awful lot of time in a very transactional aspect of the job. However, that free up a lot of the time for the value add of our associates to better understand the real need of our customers. And therefore, that's the second aspect about augmenting, as you said, that's very true at Sonepar, augmenting our associate in sales as an example, with what to do next. I mean, AI is here to trigger not just the next action, but the next best action. And that's where the knowledge of our customers with the expertise of our associates is extremely important. Those are 2 examples of where AI actually today in our omni-channel platform is actually a coworker in their day-to-day life. Now, it's also a tool, because indeed, we have tasks to perform, Corine, but we also have job to be done. Our installers, electricians have job to be done. And there is a lot of complexity and a lot of constraints, a lot of variability, where AI today has some limits and where humans actually are using tool as a way to get the job done.
And your example is actually quite interesting because it shows in action exactly how it makes things more efficient, faster. I want to talk about speed a little bit because is faster, things are faster, and that sometimes can mean things, we can come to cures easier, we can solve big societal problems easier, but also, again, the human part of all of this is the authenticity, is the judgment, is the discernment. So I want us to think about that and sit with that a little bit, but I do have some follow-up questions for all 3 of you. And Corine, I wanted to go back to you. France ranks among the global leaders in AI adoption, and Microsoft has committed to training 1 million people by 2027. I was actually quite interested in that program. I wanted for you to double-click a little bit on that. What are the real prerequisites that separate these organizations that scale AI in this way? So tell me a little bit about your program, but also what's the difference between those who scale AI and those who are stuck sort of in the pilot phase still? Okay,
let me summarize and give a short answer because I can probably talk about that during 2 hours. I think we tended to, you said it, I mean, in terms of diffusion, France is at the number 5 in terms of ranking, even ahead of US in terms of the adoption by workers. 47% of the workers, according to the AI diffusion report, I mean, we issue, are adopting AI. So it's not any longer a people issue. It's not either a technology issue. But what gets in the middle, it's the ability of the organization and the leadership to embrace technology. And what people say is that, well, they realize, I mean, they get smarter with AI, they can do things they didn't do before. But, I mean, their organization is not ready. Their leadership is not ready. They think like AI is going to be a tool you plug into the processes while you have to transform. While you have really to rethink about, I mean, the way you take decisions, the way you're going to operate your company, and well, Sonepar, good example. But it comes from the top, and it comes from the strategy. It's not something you put, you know, here and there. It has to be part of your strategy. So what we've seen, I mean, is a lot of companies stuck into hundreds of POC, you know, proof of concept, but really not using AI as my strategy is this, and AI is part of it. So that's what gets organization not ready. The other thing is the training, because the same survey says that 7 out of 10 executives are not trained, starting from the top, by the way. So we've been entering into a massive training. We committed to train 1 million people because we feel like it's a society issue. It's about not only, I mean, the professional, but the students, you know, the job seekers as well. So we've been working with different organizations, France Travail in France, to you know, provide tools and content so people can understand what is AI, what is for, and kind of fight against the fear, because there's a lot of fear about that. So this is important that, I mean, you get people understand what it is and what it is not. And as well, how that everybody will need to be skilled. It's a massive skilling program. You know, we tend to say to have big competency program in the company. I think the companies get it right. But if you think about public sector, small companies, it's a massive transformation training. So skilling your people is getting them, you know, employed for the future as well. So that's super important. So we've done that with, as I say, students, job seekers, different programs, startups. We have built a calendar of AI. All tools being available, free, not Microsoft content. It's agnostic, but it's important that you get, I mean, the organization as a whole country, I mean, adopting AI and be competitive at the end. We talk about competitiveness and our future jobs. This is what we're talking about.
And to see the private sector step in, because we see sort of education is still catching up, and sometimes AI tools in the education realm are seen as maybe like cheating or plagiarizing, but indeed they are a supplement, and the kids are going into, they're not kids, young adults are going into the job market. They need to have those skills. And Valérie, I'm going to come back to you. You've compared today's generative AI to an intern. It's useful, but one whose outputs you spend real time correcting and who may never grow into high potential talent the way a person does. So the question after you, if that's right, how should leaders recalibrate what they actually use AI for?
Well, I think this was something that I wrote in October, and it goes so fast, I think we have less and less correction to do, but it's still true. Like, you still have to do oversight of what your AI is doing for you. And I want to build on what you were saying, Corine, because what we see is that one of the main blockers to adoption in an efficient way for impact, is the fear and the trust. And one way to build the trust is to indeed involve your teams and your organization in the adoption scenarios, in the use case, in building this use case, and to train them to rebuild that trust and that fear. So to your question about what should a leader do, I think there is it's back to your question about our humanity, it forces us to be even better leaders. And to go back to what a leader is about. A leader is about not bringing the expertise. This is long gone, but this is even more gone with AI, who is really bringing the expertise at the fingertips of anyone who asks the question in a smart way. So the leader needs to really be here to show the direction, to energize the teams, to provide the empathy. And I think this is where it's really bringing back the leader to its humanity to engage with the teams. And back to the intern, I think there is a question that I was asking myself, which is if indeed we tend to delegate the low-value task, as you were saying, Jeremy, and the repetitive tasks that can be automated, which were tasks that we were usually delegating to the younger coming to the companies, how are we going to onboard the younger generation into our organizations? And so I want to tell the story. I was asking the question to one of our clients in a very big law firm in the US, and I was saying, hey, how are you going to do? Like, you no longer have these, no longer need these paralegal to do all these case compilation, etc. And she was telling me, well, actually, this was a pretty stupid way to do onboarding anyway. So it's actually forcing us, again, to be better leader and to think better, how do I coach my younger talent to really onboard faster into the organization? So definitely a theme here about AI being a tool. Like, humanity has always invented tools to make work easy, like from the wheel to the sails and to the cars, etc. AI is a tool to make knowledge work easier. And so how do we use that to become more human on all the rest of the tasks that we need to perform as an organization to make society work?
I mean, it's the very essence of what Aristotle would say. Everybody will do the work and we'll have more time to wax lyrical. But so it's a very, very interesting way. For you, Jeremy, I was thinking about this because you actually, as Sonepar, have framed AI not as a replacement of the workforce, but as an enhancement, because you have shortages in labor. And so I was actually quite interested in the electrification or the industry that you're in. You're augmenting staff rather than cutting headcount. So for you, helping a junior reach the level of a good manager, AI is helping with that quite a bit. And so the question that I had for you, where does that augmentation hit a ceiling? And what part of expertise can AI still not quite touch?
Okay, so indeed there is a shortage in our industry. I mean, Jensen from NVIDIA said the next millionaires will be electricians. But by the time we have more electricians on this planet, we have to be more productive, more efficient in what we do. And that's why AI is kind of a gift to automate the low value add and focus on the high value add, I would say, activities. So I am very excited, and we talked about that, about having young graduates joining Sonepar, and after a week or two, be as good as the old-timer in the expertise of the full solution, in the recommendation to our customers, in anticipating their need. And so AI here is very good in onboarding these young graduates, and I believe a year from now will be even better. But we keep the decision-making, we keep the accountability. I mean, we are in an industry where safety matters, compliance matters. So at some point, when you touch about accountability, who makes the decision, who will be liable, what about the safety concerns? That's where there is a ceiling. That said, we decided to invest in an omni-channel platform where the human is at the center of it. And why is that? Because if AI today is very good in dealing with a large number of information and data and knowledge, the real world and its anticipation and subtleties and specificities is much harder at the moment. And that's where the human needs to inform the database so that probably the AI will learn from it. So there is a ceiling because of the decision-making and eventually the responsibility and the accountability. But I want to believe that through the human in the loop, as we say, the database can be enriched and we can push that ceiling.
It's very interesting, because I've heard human in the loop probably every single day that I've been at this conference. It's actually quite important still. Is there a scenario in the future where AI becomes in a managerial position, and then you have fewer humans to making those decisions? It's just a quick question. Yes, no?
Well, I actually prefer human in the lead than human in the loop.
Okay.
Because I actually believe, and today we already have agents talking to agents. So when we are, because to Corine's point, I think the point is not to have AI to replace point-to-point activities. It's really to rethink the processes, and that's what we are also doing, auditing the processes and where the work is happening and what are the opportunities to automate for better impact, better quality, better speed, all that we've talked about. And in some of the cases, you may have pieces of process that may be replaced by several agents that will talk to one another without any human in the loop. but it's never in the lead because the AI never make the decisions. They're just managing processes separately. And in the recruiting space, you can imagine one of the reasons we are separating the agents is also to make sure that we keep the ethics and the responsibility and the access to the data very clearly defined, also for explainability, etc. So that's why we create several agents. And these agents talking together will then provide a recommendation where a human will be in the lead to make decisions and to go forward. So yes, there will be scenarios in certain processes where there will be no human in the loop, but at all time, human stays in the lead.
I like this, human in the lead, not in the loop.
In fact, I mean, to follow on what you said, when we look at the future of work, for sure there will be, more tasks automatized, more agents into the loop, but humans stay. Let me give you some example of how we look at the future of work. You have some roles where really, the humans stay and just get AI as an assistant and is the author, doing things. Then you have some collaboration between, an agent and a human, but still collaboration. Then when you go to what we call frontier firm, or more and more, your full process, let's say an operating process, a supply chain, is orchestrated by agents. You have a director who's going to, give orders to that agent, and agent will place an order, we'll look at an inventory. And you might have complete process as well. And at Microsoft, we do that on security as well, where you orchestrate different agents. One who's going to look at the failure, the other one who's going to secure, the other one who's going to update the documentation, but you have the orchestrator. In those four roles, you always have the human, And this is, there's a fear of students, and you talk about it, we talk a little bit about it before, but the reality is that humans stay in control. So machines don't buy, things, humans do, and humans stay in control. And I think this is the fear of the young generation. And there's a lot of, discussion to have around this, because we've seen these T-shirts with 100% human. And I think this is, a responsibility to respond to them and to help them to get into that workplace where decision is made. AI is not going to make a decision when my example is a doctor who's going to make the decision. But yes, a lot of the work and pre-work analysis will be done by AI. So I'm a realistic optimist.
I love it. Well, that would have been my next question, feel optimistic. But Jérémie, I want to go to you, because the discussion is actually getting quite interesting. A human in the lead, the human always makes a decision, especially in a industry like yours, right? It's quite important. What if, because responsibility and accountability is also important. So how do you make a machine accountable if they make a mistake, right? Tell me a little bit from your vantage point, how do you see it in your work with that human in the lead or human in the loop? Do you ever see that ever being, like, the machine ever taking over completely?
It's a tricky question because we today only refer to what we are seeing as we speak, right? So who knows the direction this is going to take in the future, but indeed, in addition to human in the loop, which I heard on the right, human in the lead, for us it's human at the center. Okay. And as long as you do that, the machine is here to help. When you are very task-oriented, the machine will help a lot. When you are objective-driven, that's when you have this human touch. Because there is a lot of things the machine doesn't know, which is what the future is going to look like, because only the human will make that future real. Mm-hmm. This is a bit philosophical, but it's very true. Those are the limits of what we see today. So do I see the machine making decisions that will be life-threatening? I don't know. You took the example of doctors, very interesting. We studied a lot the emergency room. Mm-hmm. When you go to the emergency, as an example, the doctor is asking you 2-3 questions. He's asking 2-3 questions. Those are life and death questions. Do I see AI giving the answers and people operating based on these answers? I don't know. I want to believe that the human intelligence goes way beyond to understand the diagnosis, find out the answers after 2 questions.
Excellent question. Excellent answer to a tricky question. You're right. But we now have new terms to think about: human in the lead, in the loop, at the center. I had a question for all three of you, so I don't know who wants to jump in first, but I was thinking about the bottlenecks and in all of this. Is it the technology? Is it us? Most old AI efforts skip the human side. They change management, the trust, the governance. For you all, from your vantage points, what is the hardest blocker from your organizations right now? I don't know who wants to take it first.
I can start, because I think, we're gonna have a complete shift that not everybody perceives today. We are living in an organization which are dated after the Second War. Very hierarchical, roles-based, and you move through the top, and this is what we know. And the other thing is that when you look at AI, more and more it goes out from the IT department and it goes into the métier, and you see all this debate around the tokens and the cost of AI, and that will imply that we change the way we look at our organization and the way we manage, our costs. In fact, today when you produce something, you look at headcount. I spent 25 years in the industry. You look at headcount, you look at material. Tomorrow you will look at token. And you will have to look at your capital allocation, what is going to be automatized, what is going to be headcount, how much material. It's a very different way to look at your business. Very, very few organizations start to look at it. Some are doing, but not a lot. And this is, we think about as well, the process change, the organization sheet is going to be the hardest, because it's super hard to change organization and the culture. But this is what we are facing today. And I would say, the roadblock is definitely, the culture, the leadership, the training, getting people, but getting to that future step, changing the way we've been working the last, 50 years, is going to be, the next revolution. And technology will become a commodity, but the rest is going to be the hard shift to face.
Yeah. Change is very, very hard to do. It's painful, even though it's coded on our DNA. We're supposed to change. Valérie?
I want to build, I agree on everything that you said, Corine, and I want to say one of the main blockers is the lack of imagination. And this is something deeply human. And you know that famous quote that actually is being challenged, I don't know if it was really Henry Ford or not, about the cars. He said, if I would have asked, they would have asked for faster horses. And I think we are in that moment in time when AI is still in its infancy. We need to be clear with everybody here, like we are still at the very beginning of scratching the surface of what it can do, as Jérémie and Corine, you were both saying. So today we shifted from, okay, it can be a productivity tool. I think we moved away from, okay, it's just going to optimize cost. I think we moved away from that to think about, let's move from return on investment to return on impact. We can have better impact, better quality. But I think the really reinventing, exactly to your point, having the imagination of what it could be will take time. And all that you said, Corine, about training people, exposing people, are very important for that. And I also want to say for those of us who are in the B2B space, we also need to look at the consumer space, how it is going to influence and maybe inspire new usage for our B2B and for our organization. This is usually the way it happens nowadays. And so I'm very, very excited about what the future has for us.
I'd like to bring a different perspective, because sometimes we put on ourselves bottlenecks and roadblocks. And maybe sometimes it's not that bad. Because if today the technology of AI looks extremely promising, and yet we still have hundreds, thousands of data centers yet to be built, the maturity being quite high, there are other aspects where the maturity maybe is not so high, and we need to pay attention to it. In French, we say the word de vigilance. So we have an obligation of being vigilant on a few things. If the technology is extremely promising and will be even more mature when we have all these data centers, what about the sovereignty topic, which is very important as well? And so what about the economic model? You talked about the token price. We are going to talk a lot about the token prices. And so as a C-level director, you have an obligation of looking at the promising technology and the productivity that you would expect from it and the best customer service that you want to offer. But at the same time, as a roadblock, you need to take some distance and evaluate where is that economic model going in the future, the next 3 to 5 years. And what about the sovereignty, which comes back as a topic from time to time, whether we like it or not?
You know, sovereignty.
Well, we can spend the 2 next hours, but I don't think you want to.
How much time do we have to talk? Sovereignty, I think, is a whole
And the next hour, because we have a good debate on this.
But you all bring some very good points. Jeremy, I'm going to piggyback on the last one you just made. And I'm thinking, you know, about the anxieties and the genuine worries that exist. And maybe we should just air it out and, you know, stress test it together. But the genuine worry about junior staff, and especially the ones who say, we let AI summarize the private equity report or draft the analysis, or, you know, we're never building that muscle, that learning curve that we, you know, you were talking about that, Valérie. You know, is it real that this anxiety that we're training a generation to stop thinking, or is it just the old anxiety that we've always had when a new tool shows up? And this is a question for all of you. Feel free to tell me what you think.
I think what you are looking for, I mean, with the new generation coming is, I mean, it's probably less of the expertise. I mean, because, you know, expertise is out of the shelf. You look for the experience, but you've always been looking for the experience. So that's the experience, is that how you transmit the experience, but you're looking more for the soft skills. The judgment capability, the mindset, the ability to have a criticism and some soft skills. And I think this challenge the way we teach, there's a work to be done in terms of what do we expect from the students. Because, you know, they're smart, they're not stupid, and they're not passive. I mean, we have a lot of young people coming, they're super smart. And by the way, I mean, they bring a lot to the company when they say, well, everything will be automatized. Those guys are tech savies. So, I mean, they share this experience as well. So I think it's probably, I mean, a good way to cross, you know, have a cross-generation and powerful, you know, output into the company. But it means that we need to change a little bit the way we teach as well and what we expect. And that's of course, another challenge for the government, for the education.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and maybe the point that you're making and that Corine you're making is AI is also redefining what expertise is. And expertise is not having a flat knowledge. A flat knowledge, yeah, I can probably emulate Einstein knowledge, but am I Einstein? I am not Einstein. You know, human intelligence is about making sense of things. And I can see for myself, for example, I've used AI to do market research for me, etc. I still need to make sense of that market research, even if that market research is very, very smart and it's been done in minutes. So I think what we need to evolve is how do we, and it's back to that question of what makes us human in the work. What is human expertise in the context of having a tool like AI that will bring that flat knowledge that anybody can have at their fingertips? What I am excited about is that it's actually going to give more people access to that expertise, and it's also very much changing the role of the leader, because back to the point that we were making. So I think for students, exactly to Corine's point, we need to make sure that we emphasize not so much the flat knowledge, but how do you make sense of that knowledge and you assemble these bricks of knowledge to do something about it for your organization.
So here I'm going to be a bit provocative.
So you're the contrarian.
You could,
I thought I was a turbulent child, but in fact, Jérémie is.
I think it's a good time to be a contrarian.
It's a good time to be a provocateur.
Vigilant. You know, because you spoke about Einstein. Einstein said, I'm not listening to the one who has the answers, but the one who has the questions. And I think as we talk to the students, and at Sonepar we have a share with the ESCP, it's very interesting because they are fully endorsing AI in everything that they want to do. And you're like, wow, you are cheating whenever you have an exam. No, we as humans have a duty to focus on the question. If you don't ask the right question, you're going to have the wrong answer. And so we focus today on the answers through using the AI, ChatGPT, GenAI, whatever. but focus on the question. I think it's more important. So to talk like ChatGPT, it's not about the answer, it's about the question. We have a duty to make sure that in universities, our students are truly focusing on the reasoning, on the logic, on the judgment, on the criticism of what's happening in the world and what they read and what they see. That is the human part of the AI as a tool. It's not about the answers, it's about the questions.
This is so good. It's getting good now. You mentioned, I want to reflect a little bit on the question and the answer, but also what you were talking about, Valérie, the expertise, because the horse, that's actually what Henry Ford said. We would have had just continue having faster horses, because up until now, our economy has been a knowledge economy. It's been all about knowledge acquisition. And now that we have all of it, pretty soon we'll have all the knowledge of the world. That if we can, they're talking about maybe implanting that knowledge into our systems or into our own little computers up here. So when that happens, what does it become about? What is the real, true next evolution of the economy? Is it about knowledge acquisition, proving that you have the knowledge, or application of it? So I know Corine is getting ready to answer that, but I do have a question, because that moves us from humans and individuals to systems thinking. Maybe this is a good time to ask you, how do we use AI for that, changing the system, changing how we think in general, and preparing this new workforce for this new economy that has entered already?
Maybe I'm going to be a little bit trivial and on this, but we've been talking a lot about return on investment and productivity and how much you save, and this is a debate we have with customers. Do I save 20 minutes and 30 minutes, 40 minutes? And honestly, the return on investment, what we call productivity, is a little bit gone, if I can be provocative as well, please, Jérémie. I think what back to you say about knowledge is a return on intelligence. Because all those companies, some of them have centuries of knowledge, centuries, when you put AI at work in their knowledge and their expertise, I mean, what is valuable is a return on intelligence. Let me give you an example. We've been working on the media industry with publicists. You've been probably seen, what we've been doing. They accumulated, a ton of knowledge in terms, of market, of media. And so AI is going to, enables this return on intelligence, which will open new markets, new services, new innovation. So I think it's a different way to look at it, maybe less systemic, but more as every company has intelligence. How do you value it with you implementing AI? So that's what we like to talk about, which shifts the debate a little bit from productivity to return on intelligence. It's a little bit harder, but it's where the world is going as well.
Can I be provocative? Because
Yes.
everybody's being provocative.
Let's do it all together.
We not a lot.
Do you know which job is the most in demand nowadays? Do you know?
Electricians.
Welders. You were very close.
I would have said
Welders.
I defend my industry.
Welders.
You
Electricians. Nurses.
I would have said.
People in hospitalities, restaurants. Why am I saying this? Is because we need to realize that, again, as I was saying at the beginning, there is a whole portion of the workforce that will be little impacted. I'm not saying not impacted because you were giving the example of doctors. It also applies to nurses, for example, and also for electricians, to do better word, etc. But I think there is a full portion of the workforce that will not be impacted. And we can ask ourselves, we've been pushing a full generation, and I'm part of that generation, to knowledge work with the promise that this is where the value was. As a society, do we want to ask ourselves the questions, and on the back of the learning of COVID, where is the value of work? Is the value of work in an office, or is the value of work the plumber who's coming at 2 a.m. in your place because you have a leak in your faucet? So I think there is because you were asking for a systemic question and societal question, I think there is a big societal question we need to ask ourselves of, first, work is about dignity. Work is in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It's dignity, And where do we want to put a price tag on work? And I think there is it may reshuffle the cards on what is important nowadays. We can't find people in construction because we've pushed everybody to learn computing. So I think there is a question here that we need to reflect upon in an AI forum, that maybe we need to go back to what we do with our hands.
And then you had the demography. I mean the demographic trends, where everybody knows. I mean, there will be a shortage in terms of the workers, and more people either retired or. And that changing in France, I saw that by 2033 you will have less workers and people retired. So you will need automatization as well. So it's kind of a big competency, you know, reskilling. So that's something for the next next year, next month to think about.
So I think the one leadership skill that we need is not so much am I productive using AI by myself. So are we creating more isolated type of job? What you mentioned as an example is interesting because it's called artisan, and most of them are like team of one. And so we, in our business, serve the customer. We are obsessed with customer service and NPS scores and these type of things. But you cannot serve very well the customer by yourself. It's teamwork. And so I think the one leadership skill that we need in an AI world is leadership. We talked about orchestrating systems. I, in my job, need now to orchestrate systems. I think it's all about orchestrating people. It's about collective intelligence. It's about collective performance. It's about collective productivity. It's all about teamwork. So how can AI actually foster this efficiency, relevancy, accuracy, so that together as a team we perform really well? This leadership skill is very human. It's not AI-driven.
Absolutely agree with Jérémie when we talk about individual productivity is something, but it's a team productivity which comes down to reshuffle your process and work as a system, versus looking at the individual 20 minutes you save every day.
But you think of a team of agents, Corine. So.
Not. We think about a team with agents and people, both of them.
Well, we're nearly out of time, but I just wanted to say thank you. From my vantage point in international affairs, we think, you know, you mentioned skills, and we think of soft power as this, you know, thing you do when things are okay, and hard power is the power. But soft power is power. And soft skills, which I don't like to call them soft, are skills. And in this new age, those skills will become extremely important when it comes to hybrid intelligence. I want to thank you all, and I want to thank you for your attention today.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.